are back on
What's
this wonderful, well-suited Wednesday, I'm going to call it, because it just suits the wrap-up of our month here at Girl
Happy
Chat.
Pride Month, you know.
Yes, Happy Pride Month. That's what we're featuring. So we acknowledge everything that's been going on in the country, across the world, including this pandemic, which we just got some news about everyone having to wear mandatory masks out in public now. How are you feeling about that, Melissa? Because you
started that. What?
You're in the house a lot and you don't go out too often. How are you feeling about the new government mandated statewide legislation?
I am all for it. There is no reason why you should be going outside and not wearing a mask. Here's the deal. I get if it's like outside, like I've been to the parks and to the beaches and to lakes and going hiking. Now I can understand when there's a multitude of people around and like the hiking. Like if you're going to hike Mary Jane Falls, it might be a little tough because there's so many people there. So you might want to put a mask on, but I know it's gonna be harder to breathe because the incline. I will say this though, there's been times where I've walked into, like I had to go to UPS to drop off some Amazon returns, right? And there's people there with no mask on.
See, that's a problem for me.
I have a problem with indoors things. Like I have not gone in a casino. The only restaurant I went to was when we went to Boiling Crab the one time, and that was it. I have not been anywhere else. I've been either in my house or somewhere outdoors. That's all. I'm good with the mask. I feel like the only thing though is if it's a mask thing, like it should be across the board. It should be every state. Every state should have to wear a mask, because what happens to those people like that are traveling for work and they don't have to wear it one place and have to wear it somewhere else? I mean, they could be spreading it.
Yeah, but
there's so many of these like the asymptomatic ones. I mean, you don't even know you have it. DL Hughley didn't know until he passed out.
Yeah, DL Hughley didn't even know. He just fainted.
Yeah.
Fine. I don't know.
Oh, Lord.
Anybody that plans a trip or travels, look up the information of the place you're going first. Know what to expect and don't come up here like, oh, I'm surprised. You wouldn't do that if you were traveling across the pond. You would totally be searching and figuring out your hotel accommodations, rules, regulations, all of that. So just do those same things coming out this way. In California, and more than likely Arizona, they may have to go through the mask thing too, because they're labeled a hot spot. But yeah, we're in an interesting time, and this is just one of those times. We can move out freely, just wear a mask. It's all there.
And it's going to be hard for people to do. I don't see why that's a problem for those that, can do it. Like, it's a mask. Like, and shout out to Will Reed and the BLM, because we got our masks from there. I don't have one on hand. We just got some new ones, some black ones in as well. So that's an inexpensive way to stay with a mask on. You can brand yourself. It could be your real estate company. It could be your position. It could be your sports team. It can be whatever you believe in or whatever you want to have on your mask. And that way it's a form of, promotion, or even just get a plain one. But you have to have something.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, there's not much more that needs to be said.
And I probably will be ordering more now since we have the ordinance. So check him out. His page is on Facebook, doing all those big things. And there it is. Mask City. Let's do it. Mask on.
Mask on.
We'll just say mask.
What's interesting though, with the whole mask situation, and they say, okay, well, unless you're drinking or you're eating. Now, typically in casinos, when people are drinking, they don't stop. They continue and have in their hands. So are you then required to put it on in between each drink? Are you required to put it on when you're done drinking, period? And if so, then someone could have a drink in their hand the whole time and never put a mask on. So what's the point?
I have my mask right near me right now to demonstrate, the one mask I brought with me, to demonstrate how you can do that. There's actually a group of ladies that have made a mask that have a zipper across the mouth that you unzip. There's also a mask that people have invented with a little hole for you to stick your straw, whatever, if you need to drink. They're coming up with stuff. It's weird, it's crazy, but it's out there. So,
well, it's also weird because what about smokers? Like, casinos are the biggest place for smokers. I thought they would easily been banning smoking by now inside casinos, because there's so much. That's another thing. You can't wear a mask and smoke.
And that's part of the game and drinking life of Vegas. So I don't know how that adjustment is going to work out.
Right.
But it's the rule.
Everybody that's already joined in on the chat, we are. Oh yeah, there we are. Yep. They are requiring masks. Yes, it's so insane.
Yes, that is a thing in our state. If you are between the ages of 2 and 9, however, you don't have to wear a mask.
Right.
Which I think should be 2 to 5, honestly, because I feel like when you're in the first grade,
I feel like 9's a little old. You know,
you have to be till 9, but whatever, we roll with it. It works.
I definitely think it should be like
it's in the little mask. It's kind of a cute little scene when you have it all coordinated and stuff. But you know, it's just the time that we're in.
Right.
Mask on.
Right.
Yeah. So here we are.
It's gonna be that, and then going into sports, like what are we? I don't know. Oh, look at C hit up in there.
Yeah,
hopefully not forever.
Yeah, he has some. I think I trust that he'll do the right.
We just gotta give him one. That's all.
Yeah, we'll get him a Girl Chat Sports one. So yeah, we'll do that.
Okay. And for BS chiming in, like, I mean, I'd appreciate that if you're smoking and you can move your mask for 5 seconds to put it back on and smoke again, like, hey, at least you're following some sort of rules. I just feel like that's going to be an easy out for a lot of people to be like, oh, well, I'm just smoking, so I can't wear a mask right now, or I'm just drinking, can't wear a mask. Because even when we went to go eat the one place I went to eat, they literally made us wear a mask until our food came. And then
that's how they're going to
put it on right after.
And I'm fine with that, because the thing of it is out of courtesy to those working in front of me, like, I have to go back to work very soon. So yeah. I don't want to have to wear my mask on an 8-hour shift, but I have to. Like, at least be respectful and kind. It's like, put it to this scenario, okay? So if you happen to pee on yourself and you're wearing no clothes, right? And I hate to get this crass, but it gets all over everybody because you don't have no pants on.
Right.
Guess what? It's only going to affect you in the chair that you're sitting in or the car seat you're in. I don't know. But I'm just saying, a mask kind of holds back some things. Let's just do the right thing out there and just
one of my girlfriends had mentioned the same thing with the pants thing, but hey, I don't like wearing pants, but I still do it in public. So it's like, it's a mask now.
No, what did he say? The governor said no shoes, no shirt, no mask, no service. Used to be no shoes, no shirt, no dice. I mean, you ain't getting service. You ain't gonna. I'm still holding to the no dice. No dice if you don't have a
mask. That's a very good question. How are we going to be at the pool with a mask on? Are we now getting the mask?
With a mask on, you wearing a mask and you laying on the lounge. What, you gonna get in the water too? I suggest rehab.
Are we now getting mask tan lines? Is that a for real thing?
Yeah. Or encore with the night swim thing.
Maybe but they don't have the pools open yet, so it's not like not like club pools unless you're staying there.
Open, and I encourage everybody to wear a mask, because I saw that video and that looked toxic.
Really?
No social distancing. Kids everywhere. No, that's ridiculous. Like, get it together. Get it together. I need people to do the right thing. And poor physicians, because the physicians and nurses and everybody in these hospital staffs have worked so tirelessly to help us not get sick, treat those that were sick, and send them on their way. Now you're about to inundate them. They've been away from their families. They have to put themselves at risk. I can't get mad at this point if a doctor says, no, I can't treat you. Not that they will, but you can't be mad at them. Like, for real. Like, how dare you be that selfish, in my opinion, to not adhere to some ordinances because they work so tirelessly to save your life?
Yeah, but see, I mean, for all the doctor's appointments that I've gone to since the whole COVID has started, they've required you to have a mask to enter the building and or do your temperature as well. So I feel like medically wise, a lot of people are having to obey the, mask requirement. It's been more like the casual people, like at the grocery store or at, going to UPS or the post office or some stores that I've been to, as far as like UPS had asked that they would ask that you try to have one on, but they don't make you have one on. And that's my thing, is I don't want to go into restaurants and casinos, and we've already seen the videos. We've seen videos of bars that are open. First of all, how do you go to a bar and not, I mean, that's your purpose is to go there to drink and to socialize. Now you're there trying to like go in between a mask and not a mask and drinking and sipping, or are you punching a hole in your mask? I don't know. I just.
Days and age of quarantine, I think everybody should become the best cooks, the best bartenders, the best caterers, the best everything in their house.
Yeah. Well, let's
get if you haven't, I don't know what to tell you. You paying $20 for a drink that you can make stronger in your own house. That's how I see it.
So let's get into, I mean, the sports now. Sports are all returning. And shout out to Cicero, because I don't see, apparently I'm guessing you're going to have to wear a mask. If those bubbles were in Nevada, here's the deal. Florida hasn't made a mandatory mask rule, not that I am aware of. So if anybody else
tested positive recently for COVID and are still heading down to Orlando.
Yeah, I know. It's ridiculous.
And then what are you going to do when this is all said and done and everybody is all COVID up? So I just play together COVID, passing it, right? And they got
is that part of it where you have to wear the mask anytime outside, even if you're just walking alone out in the street? Is it, you know what I mean? Like, are you just, if I go outside of my house to go for a jog, am I having to wear a mask where someone's going to stop me?
No, I hope not. I mean, you don't know. There's some crazies out there that'll be against you wearing them.
Right.
I mean, it's cold, you know what I mean?
As we get closer to
safe, and you have to walk with discernment. And if you don't need it, don't go get it. If you have to go out and do things, then go home. It ain't hard. What, you don't like your home? If everybody don't like their home,
go to your home.
Adam Sandler, don't you aren't you too good for your home?
Hey, but speaking, so we've got sports that are coming back. I'm excited because our USLs announced that they are officially starting back on the 11th, I think. We just don't know where yet, because they're going to be dividing the league into not just 2 or 1 area. It's going to be like in regions. So it'll be like 5 or 6 different regions that they'll be splitting the teams up in to play out their, was it 10 games? 16 games, 16 regular games. And if they already played a regular season game, it'll already count. So some teams are only playing 14. We'll be playing, I think, a full 16. But I'm excited the guys will get back out. We just don't know where yet. So we'll see if it's Vegas or not.
Well, I know NHL for their playoff tourney, they're definitely high on the list of Vegas.
Yeah.
That stays, but with the numbers the way they are now, I don't know if that's going to be the case.
Well, I think before Vegas was a good option because they could basically use one hotel or one casino just for those teams per se. But now you've got everything open. Are you now required to shut one down to put the teams in? Like, I don't see how you're going to be able to have just regular tourists and players within the same casino or hotel. That's be really difficult.
How that's going to work. But we'll see.
But so Vegas did make the cut. We did make the cut for places, for arenas, for the 2 locations for NHL. They're supposed to make some kind of announcement later on, just like USL is supposed to make an announcement later on, hopefully this week, maybe next, because they got to start reporting like July 1st, July something.
Like baseball, MLB is coming back, God willing. Okay,
so tell me about this. This is what I didn't understand. How is it that the MLBPA turned down the 60 games, then got the 70 games, turned that down, then went back to 60 games and turned that down, but now they're playing 60 games again?
Maybe it was a money thing in between that.
Well, I think they were supposed to be getting their full prorated whatever amount.
They're getting the back of what they're supposed to get, and they're supposed to get the retroactive pay or something like that.
Right. I don't know.
Going back and forth, and it's players with concerns. So maybe they settled on 60 after the 70 sounded ludicrous and everything else. Maybe they're like, oh, well, then 60 don't sound so bad after you mentioned 70. Maybe we'll just roll with the 60. Maybe that possibly was the case. Either way, they're coming back.
Yeah. And they're going to be doing 40 games regular season and then 20 games. I think it's interleague play. So that way you're basically not having, because here's the deal, they're not doing Arizona and Florida no more. They've closed those 2 options down. It's going to be, the teams are reporting to training camp at their home stadiums, and they're just going to be trying to limit the amount of travel that each team does. So that's going to be interesting because
California's governor is talking about a second stay-at-home measure now. How's that going to work? So it's all subjective. This is great talk. It's great that I hope it gets executed to some degree, because I really just want to see what happens with these Astros and the Yankees. I really just want smoke brought to them. So that's the only reason I'm really wanting the baseball to come back, because I want every team that plays the Astros or the Yankees to do something to them. Not bad, but just take them out.
Karma's just a little payback.
Yeah, just scale them back where they're less than 500 for the season, for the small season that we have.
Right. Well, that's the thing, is there's already been, I think, Major League Baseball had 40 positive tests between players and staff on Sunday. That's just Major League Baseball. 40. And we don't know how many of which way. There was a tennis player that had tested positive over the weekend. There was the first PGA. What's his name? His caddy tested positive, and now he's not going to be in the next tournament. So I don't know. It's really yeah.
Someone tease, like you're teasing us with it, and then it happens something bad. I don't know. Just
I can't. And then the only thing is like I don't know who's going to actually start first. That's what I want to see.
That's a good bet to place. Maybe we go to a sports book. Maybe the sports book has that. Maybe a drive-up sports book has that.
I mean, seriously, because we all got tentative dates. Something may happen in between here and there. Maybe if everybody's going to Florida, there could be a major breakout. Because and the news today was that Disney decided to postpone their opening of the California Disneyland. So, yeah, but guess what? All these people are going to Disney World in Florida, and they had like 7,000 positive tests today. 7,000.
That's Florida. What do people say? The craziest people live in Florida, in the Bronx? At least that's what Charlamagne says.
I don't know. So we're all still in limbo, you guys, for sports. We still don't know. There's some dates, but we'll see. I won't believe it till we get to live sports.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, there you go.
We get to live sports, right? Let's say we're in the end of August. At that point, that means we would have NHL, Major League Baseball, NBA, NFL, and our US. You got 5 things on during the day. Like, when are you able to watch one thing, if not all of them? We went from having 0 sports to having too many sports to watch in one day.
You got to pick your poison of which one you like the most.
I guess I have to make a calendar. Mondays are for football. Tuesdays, baseball. It's just going to be a lot. But shout out to Bubba Wallace. I watched an entire NASCAR race on Monday.
He came in 4th, right?
No, he came in, I think it was 9th or 14th. But he had held the first. He was holding down first place up in the third stage. I'm learning a few things as I start my NASCAR fandom. He was in the 3rd stage and he held it for a couple minutes. But this gas situation with how they timed the fill-ups and gases, because they're literally running out of gas every lap. And so basically he didn't have enough gas to really push him into that last 2 minutes of race.
Well, he had no time to go to the pit crew and refuel.
Yeah, there was a handful of guys, like literally the top, I'd say 5 or 6 cars at that point, like maybe during the beginning of the third stage, all of them didn't place in the top 3 because they all had gas issues and were running out, and they had mismanaged. I guess that's a mismanaged when you don't fill up or don't. I don't know. It's a hard thing to do.
A lot going on. There's a lot of controversy before his race, and that was a whole fiasco, and very ugly fiasco, if you will. And a lot of them, a lot of that too had to do with his setup. That takes you out of the mind and mentals of getting prepared and being properly prepared. Right. You have other instances, which are unnecessary instances. But he unfortunately probably won't have that previous occurrence of a noose like. I'll say it was a noose. It was a noose hanging from his garage.
Right. It was.
He's in for the fight of his life. Don't think it's not over for Bubba, because he's still going to be fighting. My thing is, people are like, oh my God, I just can't believe it. Have you met or have you heard the story of Jackie Robinson? I just need you to know.
Yeah, but this is, and now we're in 2020. Like, come on.
Mel, you can say that all day and look what's going on. We have not had any change. So
I know.
So for him to be the only race car driver racing, making a huge drastic change to the narrative of the car within days, far more positive results in 48 hours than the NFL did for Cap. We won't talk about that though. And the fact that he is now literally like a face of this sporting
new movement.
And also the fact that they hired, shout out to Brandon, this new VP of diversity affairs. Like, they're really getting the inclusion at a fast, rapid rate. You're not going to have everybody be happy. You're not going to have everybody going with the no Confederate flag at these arenas. They're not going to, at these race tracks, they're not going to do it. You got some that aren't going to do it, but hey, you better fall in line because it's not going to go backwards. It's only going to go forwards. So
and to see to Cicero, you know, he said that they had already found the noose in there. But the thing is if the noose was already in there in 2019, why didn't someone have an issue with it? I mean, we know why, but it's like you can't make the excuse that, oh well, it's not a hate crime on Bubba. I mean, 2019, someone's still leaving it in there as a hate crime.
It's not a Bow Life knot, okay? If anybody knows about knot tying, if guys have been to Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts,
exactly. It's not.
There's all kinds of knots you can make. A Bow Life knot, similar to looking like a noose. I've seen them hang off of garage doors. It's a Bow Life knot. That is not that. You go on YouTube, you can learn how to tie these different knots. There's so many various knots. Bow Life knots are usually used when you're fishing and it's like off your fish hook and that kind of thing. Those are the knots that you use. That was clearly a noose. Regardless if it had been there in the past, whoever it was for, it's the symbolism of the object. I don't care what the FBI has said. I don't care if it's the symbolism of it all. And coincidentally, in his garage is what speaks higher volumes. The symbolism of having a noose means so much in context of looking at it as an object. So it doesn't matter. It's the fact that that object was there. And it wasn't him that found it. It was the staff from NASCAR that found it. Let's be clear.
And it wasn't him. Exactly.
It was a NASCAR official, a worker for NASCAR that discovered it and reported it. And rightfully so. Regardless if it had been there, it's still a noose at the end of the day. And as Black people, we know Confederate flags, nooses, any of those kind of objects in a NASCAR arena means we're not welcomed.
No. And
now that they're changing it to be welcome for all of us, it's going to be heavy and it's going to be a lot of lifting for Bubba. It's not going to be an easy fight. He knows that. And he knows he's in for the fight of his life. And we have to be.
He's ready for it too.
He's ready and we have to be ready too. We have to stand with him. We have to support him. So that's what we're doing.
So that's pretty much the wrap up of sport. Well, okay. And Dak Prescott got signed his money.
Yes,
whatever. Seahawks and Ravens are shopping AB out. I mean, you know,
hey, let's see what they do.
It'll be interesting. But let's get on our guest. Let's discuss some things with him. Please welcome Mr. André Wade.
Hey, everybody. Hey. What's up, ladies?
Exactly. Precisely 11 months from this day was when you were last on our show.
Yes.
And that was Pride Month. And that's the first week of Pride Month or the last week, but we want to get you in there because we're wrapping up the month. And, you know, we want to let the audience know that Pride also intersects with Black Lives Matter. Before we get into that, though, I want you to just explain to the audience a little bit of your background and why we have you on today, aside from you being such a great friend to us and a loyal supporter of Girl Chat Sports.
Yes.
You know, you don't own any merchandise, everybody from tap up to Melissa too, for our audience.
I'm looking around.
Explain a little bit about yourself. We know you support us, but just go ahead and explain to the audience a little bit about you and eyes on you.
Now she was all on what's his name from Tommy. Yeah.
Oh, now
you're trying to share the
wealth. Nella, you all in Tommy face, girl. Some high handsome.
Wow.
Nah, love you, Natalie. Yeah, so no, I'm a Vegas native. Known Mo, of course, since eighth grade. I have known Melissa since 2007 or eight.
Probably 7, yeah.
Yeah, all right. I grew up playing sports, playing basketball, baseball, soccer, ran track,
Where'd you run track at?
bowled.
Where'd you run track at?
Ran track at Western and Cimarron. Lettered both. I went to state, so I ran. Yeah, doing my thing. But I stopped. I stopped doing sports. Really excited to want to concentrate on my academic studies. But no, I just have a background in human services. But I've been doing advocacy and education around LGBTQ issues for the past 12 years. And so, yeah, that's the work I primarily do, and I teach gender, race, class, and sexuality at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas.
Very impressive. So you were a perfect guest to have on our show this evening to wrap up the Pride Month. I love it.
I think so.
Talk about first and foremost is the work that you've been doing has been amazing throughout the community as well as statewide. I wanted to touch on just a few things because the last time we spoke, like a year ago on our platform, we were talking about transgenders in sports and just LGBTQ inclusiveness in sports. And I know with everything going on, that was like 11 months ago, but we haven't really heard much more about the subject, as well as the inclusivity of sexual orientation in sports. Now, I did notice that women's sports seem to have a more biased, open inclusiveness arena when you're talking about U.S. women's soccer, you're talking about WNBA, you're talking about softball, you're talking about any of these sports that women play in, that their sexual orientation doesn't seem to be a problem. Whereas we go into what you want to call the male-dominant sports arena, NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, those kind of things, it's still, to me, a little hard for that side to come to grips or come around, or for players to even be open with their sexual orientation. Can you speak on that, or you think I may be off base on the metrics?
No, I mean, you're right on. In general, women, lesbians, bisexual women are more accepted in society, mainly because it's the men who are doing the accepting and who fetishize it, who think that they can, turn a woman out, or we start getting into like these fantasies of, with three ways and all these sort of things. But it's always through this male gaze. It's about the men doing the controlling. And even if you hear about a man and a woman who likes to invite women into the bedroom, if you kind of have, sometimes with some stories, you might hear it where it's really like the guy who's sort of controlling everything, and it's not really the woman who's saying whether or not she has the option to have like another guy in there, because that's like a no-go for men. And so it's more accepted and it's tolerated, even if it's not like accepted. When men can like sort of be like, okay, it's fine, we can deal with it, because they don't see it as a threat to them, unless it's a quote unquote butch woman or a stud or something like that, where they will present more masculine. Then men would have a problem with that, because then there's the notion that men then feel their masculinity threatened by that. And just like how men's masculinity is threatened by having gay or bisexual men in sports, knowingly in sports, because we know they are. And so it becomes this whole thing like, oh, I don't want to shower with someone and all this stuff, as if LGBTQ people are predators, and that just because we're in that space, then we're gonna, do something sexually. And then you have guys who'll be like, well, I remember this one guy or these guys, they came on to me and all this sort of thing, and I didn't want them to. It's just like, well, what about when you come on to women and they don't want you to? It's like, welcome to the club. We all been there in some shape or fashion. But yeah, just guns is, at the end of the day, it's men who are dominating the conversations, and it's the threat to men's sense of masculinity that's at play. And at the end of the day, straight masculine guy doesn't want to be beat by a gay guy or a female in sports or in something physical. And so that has to be quote unquote policed.
Wow. So do you think, shout out to Jen. She's calling you a handsome devil. She thinks you're the
thank you.
No, I'm just kidding. Shout out to Jen. So when we talk about this, let's get into it, because I noticed that when it comes to a subject matter of this, and we'll just touch on it, when you say that layer and then add another layer like transgender players or transgender sons, soon to be daughters of players, or I'll say transgender daughters, I'm speaking mostly on the Dwayne Wade thing, how a lot of men I noticed came for Dwayne's head about this subject matter about regarding his son, his child, because of more of the age thing, like 12 is too young. Why would he do this? I don't understand. It's killing Black men, like it's making Black boys, and like it's all this vicious stuff that I hear. So what can we say? What can you say to squash the narrative of everything that I just mentioned, of some bad verbiage of this being something that's just outright sinful, if you will, if I use those words right?
Yeah, I don't know about squashing. I wish we could, but you know, I've done quite a few interviews this past couple of weeks because of the Supreme Court decision, and just out there. Oh, thank you, and the convergence of pride and Black Lives Matter, and we always talk about transgender folks, and even today was doing a training to an organization around LGBTQ youth, and we talk about sexual orientation, gender identity, and of course transgender folks and gender nonconforming people. And so out of the whole LGBTQ spectrum, you know, lesbian, gay, bisexual, people can wrap their minds around someone's sexual orientation. They may not like it or understand where it's coming from, but they're like, okay, you're lesbian, you're gay, you're bisexual, okay, fine. But when we start talking about someone who's transgender or even intersex, which is a different category, then people's heads kind of explode and just can't wrap their mind around what it means to be transgender, because we don't really have a complete understanding what gender and sex is, and what the difference between one's sex, like the chromosomal sex, like your doctor says you're male or female, and how they determine that, versus your gender, which is like in your head and how you see yourself. And we then express our gender in certain ways, a la Prince. You know, Prince is a guy who would, you know, he identified as a male, but he, you know, would wear pumps and tight pants and lace and all that stuff. And that's the way he expressed his gender. You have David Bowie. I'm a little old school, so, you know, my references are a little older. But you have David Bowie, who didn't really identify as necessarily male or female. He was more like gender nonconforming, we'd call it. And so he would present in ways that weren't necessarily masculine or feminine, but they're kind of a mixture of both. And so when it comes to like pop stars, we can kind of be okay with that. But when it comes to everyday people, we struggle with it, because all we see is the world as binary: black, white, up, down, right, left, male, female, yes, no. And there's really no understanding of the in between. So when we introduce something like transgender, then people are just like, well, why would someone want to be a man when they're a woman? Why would someone want to be a woman when they're a man? It's not about like, you know what? You know, I really love wigs and dresses, so I'm just gonna, you know, do this full transition and think it's like a thing or a choice that someone makes lightly. And way to think about it is someone who's born with the male body and the mind of a female. And so how you see yourself, your identity, does not match with your body. And so people have a lot of trauma and depression and suicidal thoughts. A lot of people commit suicide because of it. Like, it's just not working for them. And so they struggle with accepting themselves, and the world isn't accepting them. It's simply because like what's happening up here doesn't match their body. But when we talk about intersex people, these are people who are born and they have ambiguous genitalia. So the doctor looks at the baby and they're like, okay, does it have a penis or a vagina to know it's a boy or girl? But what happens when the genitalia is ambiguous? They can't tell if it's more female or male. And so the doctors have to do an assessment to make a determination.
Mm.
And so when they make the determination, there's a crude way of thinking about it that it's easier to dig a ditch than pitch a tent. So it's easier to make a vagina than it is a penis. So that being the case, if doctors are sort of making this crude, I'm being very broad based, these crude determinations, then what does that say about someone's gender and how they see themselves that's attached to what a doctor has decided that their sex is gonna be? And so it's not as straightforward. And there's a lot more intersex people, and we call it like the third sex or the third gender, that are born more often than we know. It's about, if I can get the number right off top of my head, like, is it 5% of the population? I got to go back and look at the numbers, but it's a decent number of people that are born intersex than we think of. And so it's not like a clear cut thing. And it's the same thing with transgender. And so speaking to Dwayne Wade's daughter, what's the alternative to not accept their daughter?
Well, that was one of my issues, is that I see all of these mostly men who are bashing on Dwayne Wade, not only his own hair dyeing, his own style. Like, let that man live his life. That's his life. Is he bothering you? Probably not. But the fact that you want to attack him for how he's parenting his daughter. My thing is that you're getting mad at players like, who was the guy that beat his kid in the NFL? I forgot. Adrian Peterson. So yeah. Adrian Peterson whips his kid and we're all up in arms like, oh my God, what happened? But you're supporting your child in doing something that they feel is what they are and what they're doing. Why is that a problem for anybody? There's no.
And that's the issue. It's like
the appropriate age to do it. That's what I'm confused about.
Well, and so this is up to debate, and it's a little quote unquote controversial. And so we think about it like this. It's going to be young people know relatively younger than what we think, like around as early as 8, 9, 10, about their gender, even their sexual orientation, even though they don't talk about it in those terms. And so what's one of the most traumatic things for someone to know who is experiencing difficulties with their gender is that, oh no, I'm going to have to go through puberty. So if you are a young pre-trans, I'll say boy at the time, and you know that you want to transition to being female because that's what's in your head. It's not that you're confused or anything like that. It's just how you're wired. The last thing you want to do is go through puberty and have testosterone go through your body, have a beard, get pubic hair in all these different places, and all have your testes drop, all that stuff. That's the last thing that you want to do. And so sometimes parents opt to have their children have hormone blockers to not go through the puberty, so they can have a easier transition to the opposite sex or gender. But sometimes young people don't really understand or know where they're at with their journey. So there may not be until like in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s before they decide to transition. And it's a little harder, biologically speaking, to do so after puberty. And of course, as you get older. So sometimes just make that decision because it's a tough decision, but it's a way to sort of avoid the trauma of puberty. In which none of us have the burden of having to make that choice, right? It's a horrible burden, but at least there's medical help for people to grapple with and make a good decision.
Well, and just like we've watched, let's say people leave this chat or this video, the podcast here, or some may start the podcast and decide they want to turn it off after it gets to a point that's uncomfortable for them. I've been in trainings with my job through the county that is on diversity and, you know, different sexual preferences and whatnot. And there's been people in like grown adults that are getting up and leaving a required training because they can't handle the information, handle the topics. And what I think makes it come full circle is we're coming into this Black Lives Matter campaign, and there's all this talk about how racist white people can't seem to grasp their self around the thought about Black Lives Matter and the humanity aspect of everything. And it comes down to similar to the gay and LGBTQ movement. I mean, there's some people, even within your own Black, you know, heritage that can't
bashing the LGBTQ people, like as you said, and that's a thing where if Black Lives Matter, then that means it encompasses every Black person. And I just seem to see that, and to your point, Mel, I see that as a huge miss. It is that, you know, we praise the Supreme Court, but people are like, hey, what about Black Lives Matter? Well, guess what? Black Lives Matter included in that too. Because regardless of who we are, tall, short, fat, skinny, long hair, short hair, gay, straight, bi, trans, we're Black, women, men, whatever. We're Black. We still incur the same racism and the same discrimination that we all pretty much can agree on that we've incurred, regardless of our sexual orientation. We're still Black at the end of the day. So it's just very interesting, as to your point, Mel, that we're excluding another group base that happened to be Black in a Black Lives Matter situation. That's not fair.
It's not.
It's not fair.
You know, we have these.
About that. I know you've seen that, Andre. What is your take on that aspect of it? Because I did see of trans women getting beat up badly by Black men in video off of riots or in a looting situation, or just being innocent bystanders that are pulled out of protests. Being I've been told my volume's low, so I don't make sure you guys can hear me. Being beat down, pulled out of the lines of protest, fighting to be beat down because of who they are and their sexual orientation.
Yeah, unfortunately, some men feel threatened by just having conversations about this information, and it's like, well, you know, if I watch it, it means that I accept it, and if I like it, if I accept it and like it, then what does it mean, or what are other people going to think about me? And so, you know, they sort of just do this group think, opt out sort of thing. But with Black Lives Matter, I always have to remind people that Black Lives Matter was started because, in part, Trayvon Martin's unfortunate death. And a hashtag was created, Black Lives Matter. And the movement evolved and was built by 2 out of 3 Black women, 2 of which identify as queer. So lesbian, queer, however they identify, they're part of the LGBTQ community. 2 of the 3 Black women who started Black Lives Matter are queer. In that, they affirm that Black lives, it means all Black lives, regardless of sexual orientation, or let me put it this way, including gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, immigrants, people who are disabled, people who have a certain legal status, you name it, they're including folks. It's on the website. They're trying to be clear. So if you got a problem with that, you have a problem with Black Lives Matter, and use something else. And why?
Like, people don't see that. People aren't doing their research to know that fact. Like,
no, and it's like, so what do you grapple with? So is it just like, well, I don't believe it, but I like believing Black Lives Matter, so you negotiate with yourself and you're okay with it to a point? And why is it, if we have to tell other people that we understand that all lives matter, but Black lives therefore don't matter, and we have these conversations and we get upset about it, then we're also having a similar conversation where we're like, okay, Black Lives Matter, and we're like, no, all Black lives matter, and they're like, no, but not you. And so how is it that it's like, so people have to understand, like, where are you standing? Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to be, because of your race, you want to be accepted and seen as a whole person. But then you don't want to accept and see somebody else as a whole person because of their sexual orientation or their gender identity. And sometimes it just all goes back to like, where did you learn this information? You know, church, school, family, all this stuff. And where did people learn this bad things about Black people? Church, school, you know, the family. So people are learning horrible things about each other, continuing this divisiveness, pointing to the Bible, pointing to what they heard on TV as to justify how they're going to not like and mistreat people when they don't understand that they're mistreating people in another parallel universe. And so it's like, get with it. It's an exhausting conversation to always have and to always try to be seen, but it's like, yeah, we don't really accept you because XYZ and the Bible says so, and Jesus and all these other things. Like, yeah, okay.
It's crazy. And just to even circle back with everything you said, it just proves a theory that it's harder for certain athletes to actually be their true selves in a sports arena because we still have these stigmas. What do you think for the leagues it's going to change, or what are the necessary steps they need to do to kind of make this change happen where players can play and be true to who they are and not have to worry about stigmas and stereotypes? What do you think the steps that league offices need to make? Because I feel like we're at a holding pattern right now with this. I don't see a progression, if you will, from the last 11 months that you were here. I feel like the same ideologies and same attitudes are still present to this day. So I just, even when the leagues are not even acknowledging the Pride Month is even a big thing, I just don't notice. So what do you think that they should do, or what do you think is suggested for anyone to
It's education. I'm just looking at a comment here, and someone saying like the people are too lazy to actually do some research, and that's it. We as Black people want people to know true American history, know our history, see us as true three-dimensional human beings for our greatness, our faults, our contributions, and all these things, which isn't taught in school, which a lot of people just largely don't know. And it goes the same thing for queer people. Like, know what it actually means to be lesbian, gay, bisexual, and what transgender, like, actually, like, what it means and where it's coming from. It's not what you heard from your friend, you know, more than likely. And so people are just using this misinformation to further confirm what they think they know or justify how they're going to treat people. But people just don't understand sexual orientation. They don't understand what it means. So people think like we choose to be gay. So people think like, okay, so I've chosen to live a life where I'm going to lose people in my life because of who I am. I'm going to have the threat of violence against me. I can potentially, until recently, lose my job because of it. I can be denied all kinds of benefits simply because of what? A lifestyle? Like, do you think people are going to be that committed to a lifestyle? If it's that simple, you think people are going to be committing suicide just because they're just like, you know what? I'm going to do this whole gay thing today, you know? And so, but also people, I'll say this one last thing, but people are struggling with their sexual orientation and their gender identity and their sense of being a lot more than we think they are. We don't have conversations about our fears, our desires, our upsets, and what's really bothering us. And so when you have, and it's cliche, but it's like people who have a hard time with this information are sometimes struggling themselves. But we don't have the language and the ability as a society to really just kind of chat things out because we've been told that these people are bad and don't be like these people. And so to prove that you're not like these people, don't watch stuff like this. You know, don't accept Dwayne Wade and how he's treating his daughter, because that means that you accept it. And if you accept it, that means you're a part of it. If you're a part of it, then we're going to X you out of this circle. So it's that kind of stuff.
One more time for the people in the back.
it's it's this group thing. So even though I'll say this as my other last thing, let's say you have someone who's like, okay, I'm cool with Dwayne Wade and his daughter and Gabrielle, some of the most beautiful parents in the world that, my God, we only wish we had, parents in that level of acceptance. Like, could you imagine what the world would be? But I've lost my train of thought. I just got caught up in Gabrielle Union when I mentioned.
I mean, I think oh wow, why is that so echoey?
I know. We're all having little problems.
I didn't hear it till just now. Yeah. But that was part of it when I listened to your the civil rights, civil equalities live you had yesterday. Part of it was all these homeless youth, because most of them, the highest population is the gay and lesbian community, because their families were not comfortable or did not allow them to remain in a home. Look at Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union. They're embracing it, and it doesn't matter whether they agree or not. They're embracing it, letting their child be who they feel they are. And if that's the case, right.
Moved all the way to California from Florida.
Yeah.
To make it easier for him.
And that's the thing we're missing, is that if you were to take a look at the amount of homeless youth that are gay or lesbian or were kicked out of their homes because their families would not accept them, maybe you'd have a different stance on how things are going.
Yep, but we're quick to dismiss and cancel people for this foolishness, and it just needs to end. It needs to end.
I also think that the men that seem to have such a, dare I say, hard on for the subject matter and are obsessed with the subject matter may have something within themselves that they're trying to express. Okay, so Roger says the Bible misquoted too. There are mentions against homosexuality in the Old Testament and the New Testament. Made the Old Testament obsolete. However, a lot of Christians pick and choose which parts to follow. Jesus told his disciples, if they don't do anything else, just love each other. That meant love all people. A lot of people forget the part which was straight from Jesus' mouth. Yes. Thank you, Roger. He gets it.
I agree.
Very true.
Well, that's part of the issue. There's all these people that they always pick and choose which part of the Bible they want to follow, or which part of the Bible they want to sit there and
subject matter. Even in the Bible, they beat our ancestors quoting Bible verses. So how real is it to go off of that same nomenclature in a Bible to live off of, when that was something that was used to add to our trauma?
No, you're right. You're right.
Very picking of people's attitudes. I think it's like, if you have one attitude, then that's it. That's chapter and verse. That's just how we're gonna roll with it. Yep. And it's about having to accept it for yourself, like, oh, then it's freeing me, or what do I want to say? Like, some people feel like, well, if I accept this, then that means that I'm one too. That's not what it means. It means that you're accepting of all humanity, that you yourself as a human are accepting of all of God's creatures, right?
Right. Because at the end of the day, ain't nobody thinking about you. And if they are, then it's a compliment, and just keep it moving, and it's not that serious. But it's usually when people have this thread around, let's say, a man and a gay man, people think that we have just left from having sex. We want to have sex right now, and we're on our way to go have some sex. And so they just see us as sexualized.
Or you're doing it right there. You're undressing them. Right there. You want to bring them into it too.
So basically, women endure if we wear something that's a little bit just revealing to compliment ourselves that we are hypersexualized and we're trying to push up on you, or we're asking for it, if you will.
Yeah, and that's this weird stuff that we have to untangle about ourselves, and so we can relate better to other people. So yeah.
Very interesting. So I know you're a big tennis guy, and I wanted to ask, what is your take right now with the scene with tennis? Because they're kind of going back and forth of playing or not playing. Serena doesn't want to be away from her daughter for so long if they do an apex bubble, like that's similar to the other major sports teams. How are you missing tennis, and what is your take if no tennis if it doesn't happen for the rest of the year? How are you feeling about that?
I mean, I'll miss it. I'll be sad, but I just feel that we have to do what's right for public health and entertainment, and generating money has to pause, because what could happen is, what if there's a lot of sick people or dead people who's not even able to watch sports and buy this stuff? Like, is that okay? And we'll figure it out. Like, we have been through as a world things like this before. We figured it out. We're still here. But like, just let it pass. And so, like, as long as Rafael Nadal doesn't have COVID, I'm good. If Djokovic has to sit on the sidelines for a while, good.
One player right now, he is tested positive for COVID.
It's fine with me. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Well,
But you know, it's
if Federer gets it, you know.
Well, and tennis is a crazy, because tennis, there's no real tennis season. Like, it's almost like it's an all year round thing. So it's not like you can just sit in a bubble for a few months and battle out, like, 16 matches. It's more of an all around thing. So unless you're going to do it like NASCAR and just be in a court and have no fans or minimal fans and run it like that throughout the season, there's no way that you're going to be able to have a tennis season like that. I mean, you think
they travel around the world.
They have the most amount of distance between them, but
I think they're probably one of the most at-risk athletes, traveling around the world and on planes and going through different countries and hotels and all this stuff. I don't know how they do it. I mean, it'd probably be just a matter of time. But they're in a point system, and so if you miss this tournament, at least won't hold it against you the next time. But I mean, it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah, it's got to be. Like, I feel like 2020 we just need to chuck it and chill for the remainder of the year. It's like we're so thirsty for the sports that we're doing great lengths to try to make it happen, and Rona is just saying no, I'm here.
Sit your butt down.
Sit down.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be how this all pans out. It really is.
Yeah, we can't talk ourselves out of this one. It doesn't matter what our beliefs are, who we are. That's not gonna prevent us from being susceptible to catching it. But so we just have to sit back and chill, because otherwise we're gonna just be forced to anyway. And so that's, you're seeing all these spikes happening across the U.S. and really across the world. And so the Rona is telling us, like, nah, I ain't done. So get back in the house.
I'm taking all your 2020 away.
Yeah, I'm literally going to take over now. Now you can't act right.
Record, we're number one now for the highest cases in the world, with Brazil second. So we definitely have a lot of ground to cover to get over this. And believe it or not, our economic dependability is not just on Americans. We encompass everyone around the world, especially this state, especially our city. So if we have to
we have a global economy. We're all connected, whether we like it or not. And so if we don't literally do this for our brothers and sisters, for our neighbors and folks across abroad, then it's all going to be for naught, because we're all just interdependent. And so we're just making it worse for ourselves.
So the mask protocol the ordinance that just came through today.
What was that? How do I feel about it?
No, I said, so you're with the mask protocol that came through tonight from the governor with the mask directive.
Yeah, I'm with it. I'm for it. But it's like, I kind of sometimes wonder, like, what would make me not okay with, like, what is it? I'm trying not to get too into the weeds of stuff, but, like, we just have people that are getting entirely different news and information from different sources that's politicizing something that's a public health concern. Yeah. And so, unfortunately, we have people that just think and see the world differently because of the information that they take in. And so like for me, it's not a big deal. Like it's a mask. I'm not like stuffing cotton balls in my mouth and I can't breathe or something. You know what I mean? It's like it's okay. But when I go out, when I rarely do it, like going to the store or whatever it is I have to go do. Wearing a mask, and I see that nowadays 95% of the people aren't wearing masks, and I'm just like what's going on
the
here?
regular, on the regular.
And it's like that's why I'm just like I'm at home, like I don't leave. I see these videos of people, and I just am like not trying to go there, but I just think that there's going to be an awakening. There's going to be an awakening with 2020 with these protests and people grappling with their own sense of racism or trying to face it, whether they want to or not. But people are like, it's going to be an awakening for whatever that might mean for someone. Because I think people are going to realize like, oh my God, like in school, I didn't really learn the right stuff. Like, what did I learn and what did I not learn? And what does that mean about this information that I think I know? And with this Corona stuff, I do think that people are going to look back and be like, oh my God, like we were told something that wasn't entirely accurate. And I think that people are going to have to grapple with that at some point, because no matter what Trump says and people on the right about this stuff, it's like, yo, science is science, health is health. And you kind of saw that played out in Tulsa with his rally where people weren't showing up. And, because sometimes people are just going to be like, yo, like you might say that, but I'm going to actually stay home and like take care of myself. Because it's just, yeah, I think it's going to be an awakening.
Well, Arizona rally proved that too, because the Arizona rally, no mask either. And now they're the hottest state in the country, one of the hottest states, along with Texas and stuff, with rising numbers, and Florida, and us, and California, and anyone else I didn't mention. Washington State is still up there. I mean, it's just like, and mind you, the numbers that are coming in, I need people to understand this is retroactive of weeks prior to where we are now. So you're
1 to 2 weeks, and sometimes they say it's even 3.
Yeah, so you're looking at past before Memorial Day, then you got Memorial Day numbers coming in, and then
protest numbers are starting to trickle in.
It's just it's a and I don't understand these people that aren't scientists that are debating with science, because numbers don't lie, and I'm not about to
look. Hey, I'm not a scientist either, and this could all be a big joke on us, but I'm going to err on the side of caution. Right. I'm not trying to be up in the hospital or get other people sick.
Right. Take that risk. I really don't want to take.
Yeah. And I mean,
you got to, but unless it hits you or hits someone that you know, you may think of it as just being this hoax. But I personally know people that have been affected by it. People that have been sick or have been sick and passed away. I have a friend who's their friend had half of her family pass away from it, like within a couple weeks. Like it's serious to where, it may not affect me if I get sick, but what happens if I affect everybody else that could get sick badly from it? Or
and to all those that are saying it's not a death sentence. True, it may not possibly be, but who wants to be sick for 2 weeks with low respiratory issues, high fevers? Why do you want to go through the sickness? Like, who wants to even be put through that misery?
Well, I mean, it's like, even if you get shot by a gun, it doesn't mean you're necessarily going to die, but does that mean you want to, like, I don't know, have a lung collapse or just get shot in general? Like,
right.
And it's just where we are, where we're able to easily dispose of people, where we're just like, oh, only 5% of the people are going to die from this? Okay, whatever. Like, why do we not care? But yeah, it's just like, who wants to get sick? And so we have the flu season that's right around the corner. So we're going to have the flu season and coronavirus wrapped up into one this fall and winter. And what's that gonna do to folks?
And whoever said because we're hot here in Vegas, it wasn't going to happen, they lied.
They lied. Weather has nothing to do with it.
Australia was in their summer when they got hit with this. So what does that tell you? They were in warm climate, still got it. So of course we're going to get it.
And with we we don't give public health officials and doctors and scientists the room to gather information and change what they know. Because when we went to school, we learned that there was an issue, people learned about it, they solved it, then there was like a vaccine or a cure or whatever, and that's it. And it's not that cut and dry. And so, as we are trying to figure out coronavirus and COVID and what the symptoms are and how people can get it, people are just like, oh, see, we're lying. Oh, we're fake. Oh, they don't know what's going on. It's like this thing is just playing out in front of us, but we're not giving that folks the ability to learn because we just think that it's linear. Like these things happen, now we know stuff. And so now you just have all these conspiracy theories. And I love a good conspiracy theory. I think they're, fun and interesting. But it's just some harebrained stuff out there. And so we're just all armchair public health officials. We're all armchair scientists and putting literally our community at risk because we want to be up in a bar, up in a club, or at Wet and Wild. Like we just cannot do these things. Like we're so programmed to consume and indulge that we can't just sit our butts down and do what we need to do. And I don't mean to like sound disparaging because some people are like living alone and like really struggling with it. But when you have stuff like Wet and Wild opening up, you see like hundreds of people. You just like,
man, that gave me anxiety. I
don't care how many times you sanitize something, it ain't gonna be enough for me over there.
Right.
Slides in that water.
Because all it's gonna take is a hot chew. Done.
Well, that's what it's hard. I mean, we all know this. If it wasn't for my dog, I would be a miserable wreck. Like I literally talk to him like he's part of like one of my friends that I'm communicating with during the day. So we all know Suge. If it wasn't for Suge, I'd probably have a heart attack and be by myself. But there are some people I know, even being by yourself, I get it if you have to like be out somewhere like once in a while. There's somebody I know on my social media who literally is at 4 or 5 different places every day. Mm-hmm. Like you can't sit your butt down at home, not even for one day. You know what I mean? Yep. Like that doesn't. How does that seem okay for people?
Yeah, it's a sad state of affairs.
We have so many social things we could do virtually. Maybe they just
like watch Girls Chat Sports.
Like watch Girls Chat Sports for one. Thank you. Shout out to KT as a show out of Texas that we were just on.
Sports Talk Live.
Yes. And he commented saying that in Texas, his governor talked about all the beds they have are available. And within a week, they're already full. Mm-hmm. So it's serious because you have, like I said before, you were in your green room, that you have to look out for the physicians and everybody in the hospitals and stuff and those health care and all the essential workers that are now repeatedly having to do this again and go through this again. They haven't been with their families. Some of them have lost their lives helping us get better. And now this is what you do to them. It's like a
There was a girl on CNN today this was her second time catching COVID. And she had different issues. It wasn't just respiratory. It was a couple other different things. I can't remember off top what it was that she had. But so basically had got it now twice. So there's been some kind of mutation within the COVID now.
Yeah, you can get it again. For everybody that thinks you can't get it once you had it once, you can get it again. We have friends in our circle that are healthcare admin professionals in different places across the country that have repeatedly told me months prior that guess what? We've seen it happen to the same people over again. And it can come back. Mm-hmm. So Roman is not playing with folks out there. I need everybody to just do the right thing. You know, distancing, please social distance, 6 feet.
Yeah. We're going to be forced to anyway.
I want to hug my parents too. I want to do all those things with them, but I want to live to see it and I want them to live to see me. So if I have to stay away from them and I have to mask up and you wear face coverings and stay socially distant from them, that's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
Because it's
they'll be okay.
I want to be out there, but we got young kids that are out there actually risking their lives, and I'll put it to that way. They're risking their lives with the COVID and other factors to march for us, but we can definitely do our part being behind the front lines. But just think about those numbers of everyone that gathered, and as beautiful as that movement was, you still got Rona lingering, so they're even at risk.
Everybody's at risk. So what's that? What's the NFL stance? I haven't kept up on that. So what they talking about?
As of right now, it's going as planned.
Yeah. Are you're speaking on COVID or Black Lives Matter? Because we got two viruses going.
We can talk about all of it, but because I think NFL is just problematic, and I'm no expert. I'm kind of speaking out of turn, but I just think that we need a real reckoning with NFL, and that a lot of us Black and brown and Asian folks really need to really push hard on the NFL for a lot of their policies and practices that's related to their players and their fans. They just take people for granted, and it just has to be a real pushback, I think, because the way they're handling stuff and getting passes for the sake of entertainment, because people want to be entertained, I think that's just not okay. I just think we got to do something about that.
And you were a Kaepernick fan, and you were following the 49ers up until when did you stop?
I stopped following 49ers when Cap left. Let's put it that way. But I still am a Cap fan. I don't care what he does. I'm Cap all day.
Do you think that
and Dak?
Huh? Yeah, plus you liked it. What do you think he should? Do you think that he should come back to the NFL if he was offered? Do you think he should say yes or no to a job with them if they make amends? They haven't made amends because they haven't publicly apologized to him personally. They apologized about the subject, but they didn't apologize to the individual that created the subject.
Yeah, I think that ship is probably sailed, and if he wanted to go back on his own terms, I'd be all for it. But I think that thing that happened, I guess it was last year, with the whole training camp and all that was amazing. That was a beautiful thing that happened.
Sure. Because
what's
again,
that?
I said people bashed him for wearing a fictional character T-shirt, which, by the way, Kunta Kinte's not real. Well, they say he is. I've had debates with this, but he was playing a fictitious character in the movie Roots by LeVar Burton. But people had stuff to say about that. Now, if he shows up wearing that shirt today, now everybody's mood has changed because of the climate. Oh yeah, go with it, rock with it. It's so funny how that kind of shifts, right?
Yeah, and I think that what Cap was doing was ahead of his time, which only with the kneeling and standing up and risking and losing his job for it and standing up for his people and what he believed was ahead of his time. Because you fast forward to now, what are we dealing with? Now everybody's on that train, but Cap was pushing that as people are still watching the NFL being like, oh, poor Cap. But even the way he bucked the system and he didn't align himself with like, oh, well, I want a job, I want to get back, so let me get back in here. He just turned the tables on them. But at the end of the day, what he was pushing back against was this white supremacy stuff and standing up for what he believed in. And so if we fast forward to 2020, what we're doing is trying to push against white supremacy and just being taken advantage of. And so he was like really ahead of his game. And so all those people that was riding Jay-Z's tip and saying disparaging things about Cap, where he, you know, if he won a job and all this stuff, it's like look at us now, look where we at, and I think that if more players had the ability to do something like that, the NFL would be in a different situation. But I'm not saying that people need to go out and risk their jobs, you know, because that's what it is. But at some point, we just got to have a pushback. Or otherwise, we're just going to be sitting here where the NFL is going to start playing, have their players all exposed, being sick, not caring, taking back to their family, you know, just that kind of stuff, because they're just trying to get their money, get their little coins.
Mm-hmm. It's very interesting, too, if people watch the World Soccer Leagues, how they have had a lot of solidarity from all of the teams that are wearing BLM jerseys down to the refs.
Yeah.
How nation has just been a great example to set. I'm very curious to see if sports returns, what that representation for Black Lives Matter will look like, especially in those sports that are dominated where it's mostly Black people and Black athletes playing. Very curious to see what that turn's going to look like. As far as the NFL goes, someone had asked the question, will you follow him if he returns? Will you follow Cap? I know I asked you this before, but someone just typed in asking, so.
I don't know. I mean, I think I would follow him, but I'm trying to be low key on the whole NFL thing until they change. You know, it's just me. I'm a spectator. I'm not like entrenched in. I don't have any stock in NFL. But I just think NFL as a whole, from what I know about it, could change things. Even the whole combine situation has its implications, and just the way they do business. And so, you know, when I like these players like Cap and Dak and Alex Smith and other people, I like them for very singular reasons. No, but I believe in what Cap stands for, and I just think that he is. It's just wonderful to see in this day and age that someone's standing up for what they believe, and so it's easy for me to not be that invested in the NFL to say like, well, I'm not going to watch it because I'm not really, entrenched in it. But it just me trying to like use this muscle. So when it comes to something I really care about, that I'll be used to like standing up for something that I believe and not dismiss it, because it goes back to anything. We just negotiate ourselves into stuff and out of stuff. And, I just want to be able to take a stand. And if that means only watching a football game if I'm at a bar and it happens to be on, then that's fine. But
with your mask
with my mask on, Yeah.
So
but yeah,
what do you think about the WNBA then? Because we've all gone to Aces games together. And there have been at least, I'd say, a handful, 5 to 6 players who have already just said they're not going to play this season due to just there being more important things they want to concentrate their time and efforts into. One of those being Natasha Cloud, as well as Jones. I forgot her. What is it, Jones? What is it?
What are you talking about?
Jones for the Sun. Anyway, so which also has caused the Aces now to be a favorite to win the championship because of all these other players that have dropped out. But I'm curious to know, which players of ours, if any, drop out. If Liz Cambage makes it in from Australia, if she can get back over here. But what do you feel as far as, we see a lot more women now kind of taking their time out. We haven't seen any big name NBA, Major League Baseball, NFL players saying they're going to take a minute out.
Yeah, they've only would consider taking a timeout, but not actually doing it.
What?
They've actually said, like a few of them, like Lou Williams and the spark of what was said about the NBA players not playing because they want to fight injustices and that kind of thing. So you've had a few speak out, but they're not literally doing the. Whereas, like to your point, the WNBA are actually acting on it.
Yeah.
When it comes to, let's say protesting, whatever that might mean, maybe it's protesting on the streets, maybe it's protesting by not going to your job, whatever that entails. The way that the system is designed is for us to be dependent upon income in our jobs for our livelihood. And so what people do is say, well, I'm not going to protest these working conditions because I need this job and it's going to be hard for me to get another job somewhere else. So I'm just going to suck it up and continue working here and doing this thing. And so people's have a hesitancy to protest. And so it's actually a privilege to be able to stand out and protest and stand up for what you believe and risk your job, when you're picketing and that sort of thing. And so it's easy for people that make a whole lot of money to be like, yo, I'm gonna keep this check. These, 12 million, 13 million, 50 million, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. If you are a third tier player or you're WNBA and you're not making that much money anyway, it might be an easier decision for you. Maybe you have determined that you can make comparable income in some other way. And so maybe these ladies have the ability to make those decisions because they don't make as much. And, you know, that has its own complications when it comes to women's value and all that stuff. And so I think that that has a lot to do about our ability to buck a system and protest about how connected we are and what we feel that we can give up or not. But that's just part of this overall structure, society, capitalism, faux democracy that we're a part of.
Well, I feel like it's going to be a wake-up call for everybody.
It'll be interesting to see how just the rest of 2020 plays out. We're literally halfway through it. If we can just make it through the second half.
I know. We are in, what is it, level 6 right now? June, level 6.
Seriously, along with the Mercury retrograde, summer solstice. I mean, it's just everything's happening. Don't make any crazy decisions the next.
Phase two.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. No strip clubs in Vegas for a while.
Look, we'll see what they can decide next week.
They said phase 3. We're gonna table that for a while.
We got to. We really have.
Anyways, Andre, thank you for joining us. Can you please let people know where they can find you or find Silver State Equality if they want to get more information on what you're doing?
Sure. So Silver State Equality is my full-time gig. It's a statewide LGBTQ civil rights organization. You can find us on Facebook or Twitter or our website, www.silverstateequality.org. We'd love for you to be involved and engaged, signing up for emails and that sort of thing, and donating, of course. But then I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I go by Android Nation, ANDREOID_Nation, or Android in Vegas. So I don't really use my name for my handles, but I'm out there. You know, I'm easy to be found. Would love to follow people and hear what they have to say about things. So yeah, come check on me.
And shout out to everybody that joined us tonight.
Yeah, I appreciate the comments and everything. I was trying to, peek over a little bit and see.
And Nicole Williams says hi, and she is part of Urban Pride.
Oh, tell Nicole I said hi. I'll tell her not. Hey, Nicole. Yeah, they have. So Urban Pride and Las Vegas Pride are organizing a silent protest this Saturday. I'm going to get the time wrong. I think it's like 6 o'clock, I believe. But if you go on Urban Pride's website, you can get the information. There's a flyer going around on Facebook, but it's in solidarity with Black Lives Matter and Pride, and just showing that the Black community and the LGBTQ community coming together, which is rare, kind of to our earlier conversation. And so they've been doing a lot of work with the planning around it. So really proud of these ladies for putting that on with Las Vegas Pride. So if that's something you all are interested in to show solidarity for the Black community, the LGBTQ community, the silent march protest is going on this Saturday.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much. And, we have to have you back on because you do know some sports.
A little bit.
I do. A little bit. Un poquito.
Well, definitely get back on for sure. Real before we wrap up, I want to just talk ESPYs real quick. Yes, sports was Sunday.
Virtual.
It was an excellent representation of what carried through on Black Lives Matter, as well as acknowledging some of the athletes we never hear about, these unsung heroes that win special awards. I want to also shout out Kevin Love because he definitely the author Ash Award of Courage, which was amazing because he spoke about his anxieties and his mental illness. And that's one of those taboo things, especially within the Black community, that we don't fully express enough of, that we do have certain traumas that we go through, and we need to make sure that we identify them and get the necessary help that's needed. And so I appreciate that Kevin Love was able to have that platform and associate his skills of basketball to relate to, hey, I have anxieties, I have things that happen. he highlighted one of his games where he had to walk off the court literally during a championship series because he was having an anxiety moment of a panic attack or whatever the case may be. But again, it's that mental illness that is something that's so taboo that we don't touch on. So big ups to him on that. I thought Megan Rapinoe, Sue Bird, and Russell Wilson did a fabulous job as hosts of the event. I was kind of mad, though, that Megan Rapinoe and Sue Bird had the shirt on I was trying to order from Fear of God. That sold out, and I woke up very early to try to get. You and I, Andre, both were trying to fight for the shirt. Didn't get it because we found out who's wearing the shirt now. So I love the announcement of George Floyd on there. Shout out to that. And it just all in all was a great, great look at another side of sports.
It was probably one of the better ones I've seen. It was, I mean,
I never watched it, and to watch this one fully to its entirety was amazing.
And it was emotional. Like, it was very, I cried a handful of times in it. I mean, that's me anyway, but it was great stories that we usually, I always, those stories get me. Yes. Like the guy was named TQ that got honored by Shaquem Griffin, who had was on fire, and I don't know, he had 3rd-degree burns and only had like a certain percentage of chance to live. Like his story, and now he's graduating high school and going to a community college to play football as a running back. Like, I mean, there's just amazing stories all around. The woman who was the UFC fighter who decided to go back to help COVID patients because she was a nurse.
Yep. And you're wearing a UFC shirt.
I'm wearing my UFC shirt. I won't say UFC. I'll stand up real quick. UFC. We're all fighters.
But yeah. It was a great ESPYs. Great
ESPYs. It was one of those better ones. Like I said, I particularly don't ever sit through an ESPYs to watch this one and the way that they presented awards. I thought it was amazing. I thought it was absolutely one of the better ones. So shout out to that.
Yeah.
Great show. And great show tonight. And thank you, Dre. Thank you, Mel.
Yeah, I just want to thank y'all real quick. Just want to thank y'all for the continued friendship and love and the uplift, and having this show and the platform. And I won't say having the courage to have this, because I think that's just part of who you all are, but just being mindful and thoughtful of having me included in these conversations, because it's important for your audience to hear this. And so I love you two very much. And I can't wait to give y'all a hug and for you to give me presents. That's all.
I have presents for you. I have presents for Mel. And shout out to Mel because her birthday is coming up.
And shout out to Jorge, wherever he's at.
We'll
Jorgito.
These cancers are in the building. Shout out to my boy Rashad, who has a birthday.
Go ahead, hook up the Cash Apps.
The greatest.
Better come say hi. They go, Sean.
I see you downstairs while I walked in.
That's Andre and Sean in the building.
He says hi, Mo.
Hi.
That's my nephew.
Thank you.
I support.
All right, y'all. I appreciate it. Bye, Natalie.
Bye.
Bye.